And then we explored evil and ambition in Shakespeare, and really kind of tried to reconceptualize what performance was about. So a playwright's job is to tell a good story, and a director's job is to get the best people possible, put them in a space where we can get their best work done, right? That's what you do. And it's pretty much the same thing that a CEO of any company does. And so, going back to that book, which got me to where we are today, so the book was called Flight Maps, Adventures with Nature in Modern America. And so Flight Maps I recommend it highly. It looks at the way we as Americans have made connections with nature, or haven't made connections with nature. And it starts with the extinction of passenger pigeons in the late 19th century, and it moves up to, it talks about the founding of the Audubon Society as a response to stopping women hat makers from killing birds to put on women's hats, which was starting to lead to species extinction. And it makes all these interesting connections, our relationships with plastic, pink Billy flamingo. And so somewhere in the footnotes, there was a reference to this book. I love when technology works. This book, Wanderlust by Rebecca Solnit. Now, if you haven't heard of Rebecca Solnit, she's just a fantastic writer. And Wanderlust was referenced in this book. It's a history of walking. And it's really a history of walking as it relates to religion, art, politics, urban planning, philosophy. It's kind of walking as a history of everything. And so it inspired for me a 4-year journey of a new theater project called the Walking Project. And what I did was I worked with my collaborators, and we spent 4 years working in the United States, primarily in Detroit, and also in KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa, which is in the northeast near Durban. And we were exploring desire lines. So desire lines is what this path is, and it's an urban planning term for the paths that people make off the grid that someone else has planned for us. You see them on college campuses. They've actually become a good tool for seeing what people do before you lay down the paths. But we were actually in 2 very different areas. Detroit, when it was really in some of its more difficult, sort of abandoned stages, and we would see these paths across vacant lots. And then we were also in South Africa, and we would see paths across fields going down like off of highways, and you kind of see these things that people create to get to the places they need to get to in the way that works for them. And it is actually might be an interesting sort of discussion if there's some questions about it. I don't want to go too far into it because it's a topic that could fill books and books and hours. So, but the most interesting thing about the book Wanderlust is Solnit urges you to get out and walk so you can find what you really don't know you're looking for. And I discovered desire lines, and I traced that back, this idea of desire lines, to this footnote that I read in a book, and it was almost a random thing. And I'm not sure anything was random, but and so I saw hundreds of desire lines, and we took walks all over the place with different people, and you know what we also started to learn that these desire lines were really unmapped stories. Maps, you know, are stories. Maps are created by cartographers, and they're artists, and they are very subjective. And so I became really interested in the stories of the unmapped people that weren't something that somebody else had decided was important. And this was just before Google Maps and those kinds of tools were ubiquitous, and I decided to go back to grad school and study technology for mapping and storytelling, thinking I would kind of bring it back into my theater practice, into my art practice. And so I did, and I went to kind of an interesting program. It's actually a good program to keep an eye out for folks that are doing good work. NYU has a program through the Tisch School of the Arts called ITP, the Interactive Telecommunications Program, and it's interesting because it's traced the evolution of technology from like sort of local cable media. They started out in the 70s with like guerrilla media, first started to be able to get a hold of sort of camcorders in the early days, and they've moved up. When I was there, it was before what we call the Internet of Things, before doing physical computing and social technology, interesting thinkers. And so I went back to grad school because of the film, really. And while I was in grad school, I was doing research for my next theater project, which was called A History of Eating. And so I really thought that, similar to the Walking Project, which was this big, giant exploration of the world within the framework of walking. I thought, well, the history of the world is also the history of food. It's salt and cocoa and sugar and tea and preservation and agriculture. You mentioned agriculture, the domestication of animals, and all of the things it's done that have caused migrations and development and climate change. And so it was very rich. And so I started talking to farmers and food producers, to artisan food producers, manufacturers, chefs, people who were looking at food distribution, because I really like to research and interview and talk to people. And it was, this was about 2007. And at the time I realized there's real growth in local food systems and people trying to connect local food producers with families and restaurants and institutional purchasers. In fact, we work with a food hub in Oklahoma City that I don't know is still, I think they're not in business anymore. But as I was doing this research, I said, there's this problem. These small groups of food producers who are trying to aggregate and come together and compete with big food don't have the tools that the big Cisco or food services and all the big distributors need. They didn't have the basic tools. And really when it comes down to it, in food and in any kind of industry that moves goods, logistics and supply chain management are critical. And so you got all these little farmers who weren't very tech savvy and really good sort of mission-oriented aggregators who were trying to bring it all together, but they were doing it with Post-it notes and if they're really good with a Google spreadsheet. So I was talking to somebody and sort of saying, I see this problem. And he said to me, well, you could go make that cool art project. You're good at that. You've done that before. You can bring together stuff. You can raise awareness, or you can go out and build that company. And so I said, I was still running my theater company at the time, but I decided to do it. So I basically created a local food supply chain management system called Local Orbit, and it's still in operation. It was my first experience raising money. I was not a developer. I had taken a couple of courses, so I could bring people in and build a team. And we were supporting about 80 local food systems around North America. There are about between 18 and 20,000 sort of buyers and sellers in individual marketplaces across the platform. And it did well on the one hand, and the other hand, it was really, the business model was not going to be lucrative by getting the small local food systems to pay what the software was worth. And so we started working with large companies and school districts, and it was moving forward, but overall I thought, well, you know what, I don't think it's really going to be viable. The sales cycles, the people who are actually responsible for making the purchasing decisions are not users of what we're doing. So it was an interesting discussion. I don't know how many people have ever dealt with enterprise sales or large organization sales. So I made a decision that, this is a good thing. This is actually really supporting a lot of businesses, but it was time for me to move on from it. So we basically had another number of customers actually took it over, still operating open source software. And as I was trying to figure out what I was going to do next, one of my investors, who I was pretty upfront with my investors, you're not going to get money back, but we did this thing, and nobody invested with the expectation. Everybody's realistic, and we were very transparent. And most people are like, well, it's not a failure. You're actually doing what you said you were going to do. There's this other piece that is, nobody could have figured it out. There's a whole other analysis, which I can talk about in terms of what's really happening today around that. So basically, I was talking to one of And he was about to have a successful exit from his tech company, which was a large, Fortune 500 supply chain management software platform. He was saying, I have this problem, and I have all this knowledge, all my files, all this information that I have saved over my life. I can't find. What have I lost? And he pulled up. And actually, so I started thinking about this. We started talking about this, and he said, so I have this idea for a company. I'm willing to invest in it when you run it. And so I was like, it was okay. Let me think about this. Completely, literally, this at the end of a dinner conversation. And so I started to think about how knowledge gets lost in hierarchical file folders. It gets lost when we try to tag stuff. We all have this problem, right? You've got your stuff spread across different cloud services, devices. You've got photos. You've got bookmarks. Man, if you can find it, it takes a lot of time. So we lose productivity, we lose knowledge, we lose connections across those different kind of file types. But so Don brought up on his iPad this game called The Room. And it's a 3D game. It's an escape game, actually. And he said, what if I could, can you guys see this? What if I could put my knowledge into a room just like I do in my house? There's this technology that people are starting to play with 3D technology. And this was a game that, his kid had done. He said, I think we should be able to bring all of our knowledge into these kinds of virtual spaces and organize them in a way that is meaningful for us. And I won't forget if I know where I put it. So I was intrigued, had not thought about it, and I started to do research. And so one of the things that I learned is that, I got right, is 90% of the information that gets processed through the brain is visual, that we are just we can process visual information and also spatial information much more effectively. Our visual and spatial memory is much more powerful than the way we look at flat 2D interfaces. And there's a really interesting writer and researcher, Barbara Sparsky, who's been working with technology and also outside of technology, who really talks about spatial thinking as the foundation of thought. We orient ourselves according to place. So it's not just what you see, it's also how you move through space. Or is it to my right? Is it north or south? Is it low or high? So it's the spatial relationships in addition to the visual experience. There are ancient memory techniques called memory palaces, mind palaces. If you've seen Sherlock Holmes talks about it, yeah. Before there was the printed word in Greek civilization, but also in many different cultures, there were these visual devices. Sometimes they were visual objects or knots, and sometimes they were mind palaces where you would literally walk through a space in your mind to remember what happened or where that information is. It's still commonly used, like the memory champions or people who are in med school that are doing a lot of rote memorization. And so you can create kind of unusual associations but anchor it in space, and the recall is much more powerful. So what we started to think about with Saying Works is how do you build tools that work the way the way our brains work, okay? So we're storing knowledge and information in flat structures that we haven't evolved to be able to make use of. So we lose a huge amount of information and a huge amount of opportunity. And so one of the things I'm going to take you through a fly-through of my career. So you saw these other photos. So this is a space that we call the Say-In. And anybody can create a 3D environment. And I'm going to show you a little bit more about it. This is a screencast of my own journey. And it brings together Dropbox files, Google Drive files, URLs, photos from Flickr. And they're all turned into, in this case we made them cubes, but you can basically take flat files and turn them into 3D objects. So we actually call it this spatialization of knowledge. And what this space, because the information is already connected, took about half an hour to build this. So the idea is it's really easy to do this. You don't have to go pay somebody 6 figures to build you a 3D thing. You can make the 3D thing on your own. So one of the things that was kind of interesting about this is when I watched this, and actually one of my developers just did this fly through, we work in a game engine called Unity, is what we're building, the sort of front end of our software. And I watched this and I was like, oh my God, all these things that I had done, I forgot about. All these images, all of these references, this context that I have, it came back to me over this sort of weird spatial timeline. And as I've been thinking about various problems or challenges or ideas and strategies building SaganWorks, we'll keep on going, but basically as I've been thinking about these challenges, I'm like, okay, I have a reservoir of experience, even if it's not exactly the same, to pull from. And that was super powerful. That was the first time, this was first done, I think, in June, when it really hit me that this thing that I believe in and that I've been working on, all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, it just did what I said it was going to do, which was pretty cool. And we're close to being able to share that with folks. So what I want to do is, let's see if this works. So I'm going to move on from my journey. And so what I thought I would do is, I've got a demo that I'm going to play for you. It's got one of my team members talking through stuff. And I can pause it or I can clarify it. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what, so you'll be able to see what we do. And then after that, we'll kind of break and be able to have some questions and some discussion. So let's see if this works.
This is a spatially accessible gallery of archive knowledge.
Can you guys hear?
Or Sagan. Sagan is a space for you to organize your knowledge in meaningful ways. Knowledge is any file that you bring into the app, including images, video, audio, documents, and even whole websites. This is furniture. Furniture is what we bring into Sagan's to make a memorable environment, where it's easier to recall where we placed our knowledge. As an example of this, I'll open our furniture panel and find a bookshelf. First, I bring in the bookshelf. Then, I open our knowledge panel and find some knowledge.
And you can see that this is all connected
In this case, a child's
to your,
drawing.
say, through Google Drive,
When I bring the child's
Dropbox,
drawing in and place it on the floor,
or your local
it takes the
document.
form of a photograph. Knowledge is context-aware in SaganWorks. So when I place the photograph on a flat surface, it takes this form. I can bring in multiple instances of the same piece of knowledge. And if I take it and put it on the wall, it takes the form of a poster. Now, if I take the photograph on the floor and put it on the bookshelf, it takes the form of a book. We can bring knowledge in from a variety of places via our integrations. Dropbox, Google Drive, Google Photos, wherever we have our knowledge stored. This also includes our local drive and our Sagan Drive, which is cloud storage that we provide with the app. This is a portal. The portal connects Sagans and also allows us to quickly travel between them. The Sagan we're entering now is a finished version of the Sagan we were just in, a family photo album Sagan. Here we see a variety of media types important to this family. Video of their trip to the zoo, images of the family together, video of their new puppy. Sagans are particularly good at providing context for the knowledge that we place within them. Here we have a photograph of a child drawing. And next to it, the child's drawing itself. Building a Sagan like this takes about an hour, give or take. Peering through more portals, we see a Sagan dedicated to French cooking, one dedicated to the artist H.R. Geiger, and another celebrating the artwork of the artist Mobius. This is an outdoor space where we play with scale. Here we see a small object made large, and the generally huge scale of the space itself.
creating high-resolution images and not limited detail.
Fully functional web browsers can be placed on walls. And PDFs can be viewed within the app in our PDF viewer. Now I'll take us up to what is known as map view. Map view is a top-down or bird's eye view of our collection of savings, which is known as our saving works. Here's the saving we were just in, the Mobius saving. I can move it around the map and also see how it's connected to other savings. If I zoom in on it, I can see the position of knowledge within the saving. The portal we traveled through from the road to the Mobius saving is represented by this pathway, which I can easily make or break. This allows us to create networks of knowledge connecting our various savings. The saving I'm entering now is the NASA Image of the Day Gallery saving. This saving makes use of audio and high-resolution imagery to create an exciting gallery of images. Context is added to this collection by the creation of a mission control environment.
And this is actually a live web VR feed. So anything you can do in a browser, you can do in SaveBook. So it gets completely live. And you can program sound to come in however you want. So you'll see some stuff with sound. And this can be done for yourself, or it can be done to share with others. So this might work for you, it might work for a team, you don't want to share it publicly. And the metadata about the files will give you deeper information as well. So Matt's gonna, Matt is talking, this is Matt. He's pulling up.
Now we're entering a saving dedicated to the juxtaposition of ideas. In this case, a segment called Two Codes, based on a New York Times editorial by Thomas Friedman, suggesting that the two codes that's most important for children to learn are computer code and the U.S. Constitution. On the floor here you see viewpoints, which allow us to quickly snap into a predetermined perspective. On this bookshelf here, we have a collection of learn to code resources. There are enough resources on this shelf for anyone who visits this saving to teach themselves to code. And here on the other side of the room, we have the entire U.S. Constitution, Articles and Amendments.
You can also save links while you're browsing, put them into the space, and you can build on your collection. Or if there's something that helps you. There's another tool that allows you to add notes and annotation.
And next to that, we find supporting information. PBS documentaries, podcasts. And here on the wall, a high-resolution scan from the Smithsonian Museum of the first page of the U.S. Constitution.
And there's one more space to show you.
Finally, we have a gallery of images from the Audubon Society. The Audubon Society commissioned artists from around the world to make their own renditions of Audubon's sketches of birds. We paired these artworks with the calls of the birds themselves.
And the sound is proximal, so when you approach it, you'll hear it. And you can set it up how you want, but it brings the information. I mean, it's fun, but it also is a very kind of knowledge management. So that is the end of this presentation. We can turn the lights on. And then we can do a little question and answer. Yeah.
So if I have to just some salient words in one sentence, just tell me if I'm accurate or not. So essentially, it's a visual mind palace of all the information resources you have related to the field.
Yes. Essentially, it is. It's a collection of spaces that you, and we can call them mind palaces. It's actually a publishing space. It's like you can bring together all of the knowledge and information you gather, put it together in a way that's meaningful for you or to share with other people. And what's interesting about it is that, again, if you wanted to go do something in 3D right now, you'd have to get somebody to build it for you. So what we're really doing is we're creating a tool that allows anybody who wants to make 3D spaces. And it's interesting because we set out to deal with the sort of knowledge management, where's my stuff problem, and everybody has that. And now but I've got thousands of photos, and you're like, who wants to go flip through albums or make albums in Google, and how do I share them? And so I'm going to make these interactive spaces. There's education use cases. There's team, like you have a new team member and you want to onboard them with all of the information that your company has. You can give them a copy of their own space and let them kind of do what they want with it. They can reorganize it, but all the master documents are there. So it can be for purely your own memory or your own sort of finding things, but what we're finding is people are using it for collaboration, they're using it for storytelling, and in a way what we really love to do is we love to share, right? We are storytellers, we love to curate, we love to walk through exhibits, and we love to customize and build stuff. And so, I can bring up some screenshots. What we don't have in this is it doesn't show us that not only can you drag stuff in, but you can change the color. You can take a blank sort of geometric shape and do whatever you want with it. You can put new floors in. You can move things around and play with the shadows because there's a lot to do with shadow and light. And so it's all of those things, but fundamentally it started with, where's my stuff? How can I find it in a way that's easy and also in a way that aggregates all of the different sources that are usually siloed. So you not only have to remember where's my stuff, you have to remember what platform or what tool you saved it in. And that's the stuff that we're trying to get rid of. And as we get ready to launch, or it's an alpha release, it's a limited release, what we're expecting based on the stuff we've seen with prototyping and really sort of early users is that I'm interested in what other people are going to do with this. It's not necessarily going to be exclusively what we built it for. We were working with a group of sort of just out of college software developers in for a talk and a workshop, and sat them down a few months ago with them for this, and a couple of them sat down and started building a maze game inside one of these spaces. They put the objects and move it around, and then because you can navigate it if you choose to, you can navigate it like a first-person shooter game in a regular sort of general game, or you can jump around. So I've seen people do things already that were unexpected, which is what you want. Yeah.
Do you think about in the future integrating with AR, VR, since it's more immersive, so people feel like they can walk through spaces?
We actually experimented with VR for a minute, but there's no market right now for VR, and people don't use it. But this is the beginning of a journey that will evolve with the hardware and with platforms that are in the future, and that would include AR and mixed reality and the kinds of devices that are not yet ubiquitous, but we've actually we've made decisions with that in mind. So you'll be able to, for instance, we could work together and build out a collaborative space in here and use sort of AR from these glasses or whatever that device is going to look like and organize it within this space. And then when we want to come back to it, though, we're not in the space. So there is technology, I'm not going to take a bet yet, but let's just say photogrammetry, which is the technology that people use, that could do a scan of the room, and then you can, when you're not here, you can experience it on your desktop or in the VR world. So the idea is that ultimately you'll be able to move both. So there's templates of different kinds of spaces, and some of them are more neutral than others.
Right.
And some of them are indoor, some of them are outdoor. We're moving towards adding more abstraction, and so that you can come up with whatever environment you want right now. We're also going to be adding an integration with Sketchfab and other 3D marketplaces, so you can bring stuff in, and then there will be a place where somebody could create a 3D environment outside of SaganWorks and import it, and also potentially there will be some kind of a marketplace where if you want to sell something that you've created, like your theme, your fun park, so that would be a way to do that. So our target demographic is, I mean, you know, there's a tremendous number of use cases, but because of the fact that right now on a desktop, you need to have I mean, you can do it on a base, I can run it on my MacBook Air, but if you're used to gaming, if you have a computer that can support gaming, it's going to be easier. You can do it on a trackpad, but it works way better with a mouse. We've seen sort of interestingly the difference generationally, and so, you know, the people that when this thing is mature, our market when we're at that place is in middle school right now. But I don't want to make any predictions, but essentially, yes, there's a younger demographic, but our team is actually a good number like 25 and under, and a good number are over 40. So we're not, you know, it isn't a bunch of kids, it's a mix, it's a real mix of people looking at all the different options. But it's a good question. So the alpha release that we're doing, we're certainly targeting, I mean, we're targeting tech makeups, and it's one of the reasons, in addition to wanting to be down here, it's a good opportunity for me to share this and get folks that are tech savvy, have the problems that we're seeing, come from different perspectives. You guys are the people that I think we want to use our platform. If you're an early adopter, you're willing to live with bugs that come with early adoption and help shape it, that's all the better. Yeah. Yes.
You mentioned Unity. What is the relation of Unity and this interface?
So SaganWorks is kind of a mashup between a game and a traditional cloud-based software service. So we have the database running on Azure. It's a traditional sort of cloud-based backend that will sync with your desktop. And then the 3D interfaces, the majority of the app is built on a game engine, which is called Unity. There are a few game engines. Unity is the most common, and Unity also allows you to work on different like Windows or Macs, or also port stuff to VR, and so it gives you the flexibility to do that. So Unity is pretty much, you know, 90% of the work we do is on interfaces. I mean, it's complicated, and then the data lives in a traditional database. Our cloud looks like anybody else's cloud, and there's an API that sends it there. That's why we can pull in stuff wherever there's an API. We use that, we run it through our database and into Unity.
So is the user then using Unity, or are they using SaganWorks?
They're using SaganWorks. So the game engine is the platform, the tool that we have used to build it. So it's not a coding language, it's a sort of higher level tool that allows you to create interfaces and interactions. It's got
SaganWorks is the game.
SaganWorks is the software tool, and Unity is the development, it's the engine that we built it on. And engine comes with physics and plugins and the ability to move across different platforms, and there's a community of folks that have built it, have built things using it. It's been around for years. Well, relatively speaking, in this world, it's still pretty new. And so that's what it is. And C# is the language of our programmers, just if anybody's curious.
Since you deal with so many disparate, so many diverse data sources, like someone has a OneDrive, someone has Google Drive, someone has Box. So what is the level of freedom which you experience? Or what is the difference in freedom which you experience while dealing with APIs from, say, Google or Microsoft or, say, iCloud? Because the data privacy being at the forefront of discussion these days, so the level of access and freedom which these platforms are giving to third-party developers is getting shrinked to a certain extent. Have you experienced that dealing with so many varied platforms?
At this stage, we haven't, because we have a limited number of integrations, and they all are well documented. And those products, if your Google Drive, your Dropbox, your OneDrive, Evernote is one that we're about to release, Google Photos, if they track your information, they're going to lose their customers. So there's a certain amount of, at a baseline level, it's your stuff. There are, we found, for instance, so we've got a browser where almost anything you can do in a browser works. Log into your cloud services, you can kind of run your life within one of these spaces on your computer. You can't play Netflix, so they've got things that break this down. And I think there might have been an issue with logging into Dropbox from the browser, but I don't know if that was fixed or, so you're gonna run into certain things. We'd love to be able to bring in Kindle books. Amazon is never gonna play, but what you can do is you can open up different windows of the Kindle browser edition, and you could have a link to each of your books, and you could actually take each one of those things. It's a little bit more time consuming, and put all of your Kindle books as individual files on your bookshelf and read and engage with them. So they had to shut that down. In terms of, we're looking at other e-readers, and we're actually looking at a lot of open source libraries, stuff that's in the public domain, and where you will have, when you launch Save and Works out of the box, there'll be some completely curated spaces that have all kinds of knowledge, like the two codes, and those are all going to be available for people to use. And like libraries of Russian literature is one of them. Various, wherever there's available free to use data, then we're actually bringing that in. The one thing I will say, and then I know you had a question, but is that while the big 5 tech companies are shutting people down more and more, there are other companies that are doing things differently. There's a shift in expectation. And one of the things that drives SaganWorks, in addition to building this tool, is thinking about what isn't working with internet and social software. And Sagan is a nod to Carl Sagan. It's a tip of the hat to a humanist, a thinker, somebody who focused on science and fact and the beauty and vastness of the world. And we're able as a company to have, make a really good tool and provide ultimately an ecosystem, I don't like using that buzzword, but where people can make stuff and contribute, but also backed by a series of sort of values and priorities that we're able to enforce. And we're going to be pretty hardcore about it, in part because that is we've built a company that isn't being forced by the way we're capitalized, by the kind of investment that we've taken, to make the decisions that have forced other tech companies to do things that prioritize growth above anything else. So there's a shift. I don't think we're alone in this. There's a shift in how people are building internet or technology businesses that comes from the learnings and public concerns. And so I think this is going to be an ongoing process. And the more successful we are, the more challenging it's going to be in terms of what somebody might want to use this for, which is something that we're very, very conscious of.
Yeah.
So, when you yourself make a statement for like your personal use, what concept do you find yourself facing those around most of the time? Like, is it events or a timeline, people? What's it?
So there's two different ones. I have a command center where I pull all of my core services and my most important documents. So it's like I jump into my office on my computer. So there's a functional day-to-day. This is where I do my work. I'm building a library of my recommended readings for my team and for other folks that actually I think I'll be able to finish and get into the alpha. I'm thinking about documenting. I built some things that document my prior career and taking all the media and stuff from here. I I used to, I mean, right now I'm not gonna do it, but I started out building a cooking saving where I grew all those recipes and things, and I just decided that I never use them. And another one, I was playing with it we were doing a renovation project at our house. And so I was also using it as a source book. And of course, it was early prototypes and all my data got wiped out, but I had a backup. But basically I also used it as a project tool and as an inspiration tool with all of the stuff that you need to keep track of, spreadsheets and links like to house, images and documents and all of the contractor agreements and things like that. So it's that kind of thing. And then there's many, but we also our collaboration features are very early. We will have better collaboration with different roles and people being able to build savings by the beginning of next year. But now you can share stuff. You just can't build something collaboratively. And so we are doing sort of a top-down SalemWorks onboarding. So we use it as a company to onboard new employees and also to have all of our developer documentation is in a Sage. And it's mostly documents from Google Drive, but they're spread on the wall and there's some interesting things to look at, so we're not stuck going through those hierarchical folders. So that's just a few of the ways that we're thinking about it.
I really like the concept because we are visual. We live in a visual world. We're up in houses with shelves and chairs and tables, and you all use computers. When you look in the index of the book, you have a list of words and numbers, and we cross-reference that in our brain when it goes in the book and we find the thing we're looking for. And same with all sorts of indexes and things, and lists of files on our computers and our computer browsers. And the idea of walking through a visual virtual reality space, and as though you're walking through a room and saying, oh, here's the shelf I want, there's the manual I want to look at, instead of going browsing through a long list of files for a PDF. I mean, that's an interesting visual approach to arranging, as you're saying, arranging your work environment or your onboarding employees or photo albums or whatever.
It makes sense. Somebody said, so we're working with the museum right now to the Henford, really amazing museum near us, Dearborn. And their digital team is working with us, but we were talking to their chief learning officer, because there's also a lot of teachers, educators are really interested in giving this to students and having students kind of go, and I've got examples of courses, and even people who are teaching how to design online learning say that the tools that they're using to teach how to design effective online learning suck. And so it's like this weird thing. So this woman who's a little bit older said it reminded, at first they were kind of like blown away when they first had, they didn't know what to make of it, which is what a lot of it happens. Then she said, kind of thinking about when I first got an iPad, I didn't know how to engage with it, but my 3-year-old just went right to it, and she knew exactly what to do. And she said, and so that I hadn't learned a new paradigm, but now that I'm thinking about SalemWorks, it's new, but it's everything that I know how to do, like put books on shelves and navigate my own environment. And so it's this combination of, whoa, with this is who we are. And it's still not as organic as I'd like it to be because you're using a mouse to navigate, but it's getting closer and it will get to that place that is just much more sort of organic with the way we move in space.
15 years for the concept of the first organizer to evolve. People kept introducing products, and there was always the next new thing from all the different companies. And kind of, we said it kind of worked and then it kind of flopped. And then finally, like the mid-aughts, like 2005, was so going to happen, the iPhone and the iPad, and things really started to lift. People started to understand it, the software was reliable and flexible enough to do it.
And you're absolutely right, and I sometimes say that I think the state of AR and VR, mixed reality, and the next generation of what computing looks like the iPhone was when it first came out. I think we're going to move a little bit faster, but if you think about your smartphone and what were you doing in 2005? Also, things like WordPress. So a lot, like there's an overlap of what we're doing to what WordPress did. I will go back to that, but that's only been around since 2004. So for the last 15 years, we've seen these incredible changes that took years to get to. I think we're a little faster, but 10 years from now, 15 years, in fact, I was talking to Dave and I were talking today, David King and I'm like, in 15 years, I won't put money on it, but I doubt we're going to see many screens. We're going to have a screen maybe in our house for certain things, but I think it's going to be a completely different paradigm. You know, Joe?
I just can't wait until you guys do that first open library, because I imagine right now if I went to a site that had, an open library on the website, I could probably search for books that I knew the title of, or maybe search by category, but you don't get that experience of walking through a library looking for a certain topic and like being able to look 3 books over.
Yep.
And see what's related tangentially, but maybe not exactly what I thought I was looking for, but then it turns out to be exactly what I was looking for, but I wouldn't have known what to search for.
If you see, we will have, that exists right now and it's being finished, so we're going to, literally we are opening up our alpha, we're going to do it in small batches within 3 weeks from this week. We're very close. And so my plug is go to saganworks.com, sign up to be an alpha user, and if you guys mention that you saw me here, we'll fast track you because we'll strike while the iron is hot. And we are really looking for early adopters who get the course and the challenges and the opportunities. And then if you choose to, we're looking for people who might want to build out spaces, curate spaces that they can share with other people. So then you can use that for just as a generous thing, or you can use that if there's something interesting in terms of your own research, or conceptually, like if there's an exaptive space, what you guys are doing. I mean, you could build out something that's relevant to the pharmaceutical research, I guess. Is something I haven't get the other image, but or about diabetes. And those are things that we want people to be able to place into the exchange. And we are going to see what people do as we evolve with their interfaces. Like the sort of so just a note on how we're looking at the revenue model, so you guys can think about this. So it's going to be a freemium model, much like Dropbox or many services. There's going to be a completely free, valuable baseline service that will never change, and then there'll be a pro version, and then there'll be a Teams version, and then there'll be an enterprise level version. But we also are going to give people the opportunity, as we discussed, to sell and buy custom assets or custom saved spaces, templates, or also fully curated knowledge collections that you can either give or potentially sell. So there'll be a marketplace of ideas and art that people can use. And that is what we think the subscriptions will get us going, but the marketplace and the one-off kind of stuff, which is a little bit of gaming, Minecrafty kind of stuff, a little bit of Etsy, a little bit of Patreon, where you go and people sell access to blogs and things like that. So that kind of environment, and then over time, hopefully the biggest challenge will be how do you help people wander through the worlds and discover what's there, because eventually there'll be lots and lots and lots of these spaces. And so how do we get to that resolution?
What I'm going to do is just give you 3 little thoughts. So I'm not really forming an opinion, but I want to see what you do with it, since I've already spoken to you a little bit.
Okay.
My first initial response was, oh, here we are going backwards 25 years ago with the CD-ROM and David Bowie. I'm looking at that stuff, and I'm thinking, I've seen this, I've been there. David Bowie warned us that we're going to be desperate for being able to knock on wood one day. And we're getting there. So now move forward. The best compliment I can give you sounds narcissistic, but I only have my own frame of reference. And that is, my mind is spinning. So now I'm moved from resistance to middle. The next part is, if I flush this out, if I try to use a natural process in terms of creativity and evolution. This technically could evolve into a new interface, not an app to store my crap.
Yep.
Okay? So I'm curious, that's a technical term, right? You didn't say there was a crack room, right? So I just gave you a new kind of room.
All right.
So my point is, so again, I'm very curious, and my mind is spinning, so.
What's my response to that? So you're right about this is kind of a little retro, and it's something that we struggle with. And one of the reasons that it's like that right now is because as an early stage company, we wanted to focus on solving the core problem. We spent time prototyping to see if we can even do this. Nobody's done this before. Nobody's brought these worlds together. We fight against community sometimes. We fight against hardware. And so there's a certain amount of, there's a common language if you look at games and if you look at people are used to with these environments, number one. Number two is we just released a really good set of customization tools and new spaces that haven't yet been fully deployed that you will see more variation. So that's just from the aesthetics. And my personal feeling, and I say, screw the physics, I want people to do whatever they want, I want to break the rules, but you can't break too many rules at a time. And so it's really kind of titrating that sort of the mind-blowing, and I've had to pull myself back in terms of that. It's a really difficult line. How far can you take people? I can't even, I mean, you guys aren't going further in terms of some of the big picture than I would in some groups. So in the sense of, you're 100% right, and aesthetically, I'm not happy. That's something that I know will change, and I've got our lead artist working on that, we've got other people working on that, and we're gonna actually start bringing in next year artists and curators to start to build the content machine and the art machine. Then, you know, and I mean that machine. So that's that first area. The second one is, the mind-blowing part is one of my biggest concerns in terms of how to get people, not everybody, but some people to jump into this and start using it and making it part of their life. There's going to be a little bit of a heavy lift to start to bring your stuff in, but once you're there, there's a Chrome extension. There are mobile apps where you can send photos. We'll get to the point where you can forward an email. So getting this stuff in there will be less difficult once you have your initial heavy lift. And we're looking at what kind of services we can provide to make that seamless. And then we're going to fill SaganWorks from the beginning with, 40-odd fully curated spaces to give people an idea of what's possible. And some of them will be effectively, here's a template, or here's an onboarding space, or here's a family gallery, or there's a whole list of them. Take it, clone it, make it your own, and here, let's get you started. So that's the second one. What was the third one? What was your third?
It's a place where all my.
Oh, the creativity, the being able to.
The evolution, yeah.
The evolution. So,
That's why I made this facility. I don't remember what.
well, yeah,
So.
that. So a couple of things. So the history of thought, in some ways, is in parallel to the history of the tools that we have. When you write with a pencil, it's different from when you type. When we had the ability to have the printing press, all of a sudden the memory balances went out. Everything we do, and is not everything, but many things are a function of the tools that we have. Right now, we're seeing stuff with phones and how that's changing things. So our tools, what I would like to see is this hybrid of the best of technology in my Optimus hat on, with the best of the stuff that I've seen help people be productive in physical space. So I've made theater, and I keep brainstorming for SaganWorks with Post-it notes and whiteboards, and spreading stuff across tables, moving things around. How do I do it? And going over here and sense making based on all the stuff around me. And I think that's a really effective way to be creative, but more and more of that information and that knowledge that we have is digital. So unless you're going to print everything out, and I know people, I talked to somebody who's like a historian who does research, and he has like 4 monitors that he spreads out all of the browser windows and the documents. better, but it's not great. So can these spaces, whether we're standing here or whether we're engaging with them through our devices, can we get to the point where it helps bring in the best of those worlds while also pointing us in the direction of the thing that we forgot about from last year, or your space coupled with Jill's space, coupled with my space and my ideas in ways that provide greater access. There's a lot of aspiration. That's sort of part of the aspirational side. Wait, actually, you have an idea.
I really like your idea. It's very innovative and appreciating success. So, do you have any plans on using data to suggest the paths to the users on how to navigate the space?
It's funny, I just had a long conversation about that this afternoon. We do, but we're not starting with that, because what we are first starting with is this notion of, so we're playing with some concepts of like data mindfulness and slow technology or calm technology, and saying that one of the problems right now is you can search for anything and find nothing or everything. And we're used to things being easy and automated, and the value is diminished because of the ease. There's a certain, in fact, we just had this conversation this afternoon, there's value to some friction. And so what we're starting with is, we want you to curate, you can connect your whole folder or whatever you want to bring in, but you don't necessarily have to bring all of your Google stuff in. It's going to live there. You can search it. You can search through saving books. You can go to your drive and find it if you need it. But what we'd like to do is encourage people to make meaningful choices about the most important knowledge that they have, and actually move it through the systems over time and be more conscious of that. So that's the first side of it. We could have a thing where, okay, connect your Dropbox and everything in this folder and all the subfolders will automatically become books on shelves. We could do that. I don't know how much more value that's going to add to you. And so those are things, I'm sure that somebody's going to ask us to do that. Some company's going to say, can we do this? And we'll decide. But I think that first we get the foundation, and we have all the data and the metadata. It's there. We're not going to share with anybody without permission. At some point, we do have thoughts about how, I'm talking about desire lines, how we can see where people are doing the most, the places that we want to go, where we can actually see the paths that might be in very different saving worlds that people have, that are somehow overlapping, and find ways to bring that to people to think about. If that answers your question.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm piggybacking on that I had before you said that. I have two things. One question on the politics. You could use also a social media platform eventually, like very long down. You could use AI to go and say like, hey, here's savings and your thought processes, and think like a little pop like this other person across the world. Like, would you like to be virtual friends with them? And then
Kind of what these guys are doing.
and then the second is, if you study a lot of like cognitive learning and educational and like sciences and data stuff, it's trying to do like schema with PhD.
I've done sort of layperson's research and we've been doing a lot of reading about it and have talked to a lot of folks. At some point, I think I'd like to bring on a neuroscientist as a consultant, and we're also looking at educators who work on different ways of learning. I mean, we use, John Berger, who talks about different ways of seeing, and there's these are, and actually in my theater work, we did a lot of workshops in schools, and they were movement-based, and one of the things that was really interesting is we would get teachers or people that would come up to us and say, this student who just like excelled was always like the outcast, and all of a sudden I watched her classmates look at her with new eyes because she was able to do things with a different set of tools. And we now know about multiple intelligences and those sorts of frameworks. So those are things that I think we will, as we grow, bring in curators, but also bring in advisors and folks that help us shape what we're doing.
Yeah, I think that's a huge
Yeah, we jotted on 3 kind of direct uses and then 1 outside of the box thought. So I think you already answered this kind of, but it seems perfectly set up for a famous museums across the world to just go in and just look at every painting and look at every exhibit. So the first thought was, does that exist? And you start working with people. The second would be, it seems perfectly set up for like going to your old family home, or every time you have a new home, and you kind of take the pictures, you kind of go back there. And you just answered this one about it seems like for like kids with autism and ADD and ADHD, this might be a really good way to help them to learn differently. And then for me as a climate scientist, it kind of makes me feel like you can almost create a 3-dimensional world, a virtual world, to see how all of our model projections and all the cool stuff we do, what does that look like in the actual environment? Because we have everything's on nice plots, but to actually go in and say, because actually the Weather Channel, they just, one of the best things they created this last year was a 3D view of what does a storm surge look like? And that was one of their top things to get people scared to leave, because it's, oh, I'm standing here and this is where it's going to be.
No, I've seen it, and it's like, it's an overlay, it's almost like an air overlay.
Yeah, so that seems really nice to set up.
So, those are all really interesting. Working backwards, so that notion of data visualization in the sense of taking data and turning it into 3D objects isn't something right now that we're looking at now. It could be that there is something to integrate with, and it could be that that's something that we end up doing. We do have one of the spaces that somebody put together, took the New York Times has lesson plans on all sorts of things, but one is about climate change. And so it takes all of the curricula from those lessons and puts it into a space where students can dig into it more. And, but the other thing, one of the early things that we've thought about is, and we get this from older people, of course, but younger people as well, is, it used to be that you were handed like the photo albums and the physical objects from your family, and we don't have that anymore. So what's going to happen with those digital sort of resources and mementos? And so that's a big part of it. And we've talked about potentially integrating with like some of the genealogy platforms, because when you look at those trees, they're kind of hard to read, but what if you can create these cool environments? So, there's a lot of those things. And we've also had a lot of people, again, we're not building toward it, but for folks with dementia and memory issues, being able to kind of bring those things back in these immersive or semi-immersive environments. And I think that the hardest part of my job, apart from just pushing everybody across the finish line and getting the first release of this out, is the discipline and the strategy around what do you do first, because the response is like this, and we haven't even released it. And so I know that, it's going to be harder it's going to be hard to get real adoption. And truly, I would love for you guys to sign up, go through this stuff, give us feedback, be really critical, and help us understand how we can get past some of the hurdles. But I think that it's huge, and it goes to, did you talk about it goes to an operating system, and I know I'm going to wrap it up, but, so what was this? It was like a completely different interface, rather than going to an application. So I think about 2 things in relation to what we're doing. You're trying to think of, okay, how do we package this? How do we make somebody think it's enough like something else without being misleading? And so, the Dropbox analogy is the first step in terms of the business model and the cloud. But another step of this is, as people have started to use it for storytelling and publishing, I think a lot about WordPress. So WordPress, 2004, and I actually thought it was older than that, came about at a time when you had to spend about $500,000 to get somebody to build your website, right? And they talk about the democratization of publishing. We sort of think about this as the democratization of 3D. So anybody can create 3D and use it to publish and tell stories, and that is a piece of it. But fundamentally, when I'm looking at my mission control panel for my own day-to-day stuff, it's an operating system. Right now, there's a lot we do within SegWorks. If you open up a PowerPoint, it'll go into whatever's in your system. Those are things that we get through, but essentially, it runs right now in your operating system, but again, as platforms change, as it really becomes something that can be fully functional through the web. And right now you've got issues, you gotta have 5G. There's all sorts of reasons why the web thing will work, but not the same as a desktop version. So once you get through all the sort of technical challenges of other people's tools, not ours, it will not require you to go through the normal interfaces. And I think that's true of many things. I don't think we're going to live in a world where we're stuck with the interface of our computers or our phones. I think we're going to be in a space where it's much more fluid. It's part the IoT stuff, it's part these augmented and virtual ubiquitous interfaces that are on our, mostly I would say glasses. So it's going to be voice commands. So we're not going to be engaged. It's going to be very Star Trek. It's going to be very 2000, very half.
Do you see this primarily as an interface? It's a very elaborate interface where you can manage all of these things.
I wouldn't necessarily, I mean, it is, I don't classify it as a, I mean, I think about it as a tool, but it's a portal, it's a gateway into all the things that you need that are typically spread out. And so, yeah, I guess it's an interface, but I still think tool is kind of what it is the most. We're at a place where everybody expects to be able to do things at a high level rather than at a low level kind of maker framework. And that actually makes a lot of sense, because why not spend our time on the experiences and the high level aggregation rather than the nitty-gritty, binary putting out the code. I mean, like, if we can do that, and then also we're building a community which does a lot of that for us as developers, then we get to spend time on the interfaces and experiences, and we get to give people the tools to publish cool things and do more with their knowledge. So, do we wrap up everything?
Yeah. Can we get Erica?
I have a question. I have a favor. I'm going to give you 2 slides. I want you to look at this. Slide A. Slide B. Slide A. Slide B. Does anybody have any thoughts on whether slide B or slide A speaks to them? It's a little testing.
A.
A? How many A? Okay. How many B? And none of the above? We're struggling to figure out what's the, so I appreciate it. We're just kicking out different options.
So internally, I told you my head is spinning.
Yeah.
For me, it feels like the future of knowledge is boundaryless.
We have that as
Do you?
one of
No,
our
I had it first. I thought-
knowledge is boundless. We actually have that on our web copy on our update. So
Oh, you
it's
do?
funny that you said next week. I mean, we've
Okay.
been, the language, we've had so many brains on this, it's not easy. So thank you for doing a little testing.
Thank you guys
Thanks,
for being
guys.
here. And our next meetup is October 17th. We're going to have a researcher from Wright University over in Ohio going to be talking about Twitterus, which is the end result of a project where they use Twitter to analyze extreme conditions. So one example is how social media was used to kind of allocate resources after some tornadoes in Oklahoma, and also kind of the reaction to gun violence when it happens in America, and just kind of using social tools as a way to track what's going on during extreme events. And that's October 17th. I hope that you guys can make it. And I would love to take your question in just a second. I would love to have like a fire marshal problem. Like, I would love to just get as many people to fill this room. So if you know organizations that might be interested in these talks, we always have such great speakers. Like we have Erica's great talk tonight. We've had speakers from NASA, we've had just really smart people with really engaging stories about data and innovation, and really love to pack the house during that. So if you have any recommendations, that might be interesting.
It wasn't a question.
Oh, sorry.
It was a thank you to our hosts and for having it here in the home city. So, thank you.
Happy to be here.